it was a boarding school. Girls came from all over the world. They had Ukrainian princesses used to stay at the campus, but then that campus was turned into like Manor Junior College, and then they just had a high school. So yeah.
There you go. Well, great to meet you. A couple things.
You too, Steve. Thank you.
I am recording this, and
Okay.
I'm going to make a Google document to put notes in for you. And I'm going to give you editing privileges on that document, and you can really do whatever you want to. You can ignore the document. You can go in and later put additional questions or comments in there.
Was that I registered on your website, I think, or when I scheduled the appointment, there's a way to register, right? So that I have an account where those notes would be, or no?
No. So that was just for the scheduling. This is a Google. It's a Google document. And let me grab your email here real quick. What is it? All right, Elizabeth. There we go. So I sent that to you, and you have editing privileges on it.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, how old are you?
Yeah. 39.
39. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple things what we're going to do today, and just let me put today's date here, 5/11/19. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, first of all, I just want to kind of know an overall snapshot of your holistic health, right? So what I'm going to do, let me move so I'm not quite so backlit here. I'm hanging out at my parents' place in Arizona. Their little retirement community becomes an absolute ghost town after Easter. All the snowbirds go back to Earth now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna muscle test. Hey, how's your immune system, nervous system, brain, heart, spirit to body connection, all these different things, because I want to know where it is right now. And one of the things to understand about doing this type of work for people is sometimes it can be very helpful, the order in which you do things. And an example of that would be if someone goes to a naturopathic doctor and the naturopathic doctor's like, wow, Elizabeth, your liver's super toxic. We should really do a liver cleanse for you. But they don't check to see if your lymphatic system and your digestion could actually handle a liver cleanse, right?
So this is interesting. Go ahead.
And so the order is important. Does that make sense? So sometimes what we do is we go, let's build a real foundation energetically that's solid, and then we can do like special projects on top of it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So what we're first going to do is not like, hey, what do you actually want? It's like first, like, let's just see what's going on and make sure you're nice and solid. Then we can kind of customize it for you. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to pray real quick. First for us, I just ask for wisdom and insight to be a blessing to you, to manifest more of an identity founded on unconditional love and peace and joy in your life. And so I'm going to screen share this with you. So if you watch it later on like a laptop or something, you'll see the whole video. It'll be a little easier for you to see. And all right. So for your part, just say, Steve, I give you permission to do this for me.
Steve, I give you permission to do this for me.
And one thing I always say to people is I always say, hey, it may sound weird, but I'm not really super attached to being 100% accurate all the time for doing this for you, because that would be weird. If I was 100% accurate all the time, I'd muscle test like winning Powerball numbers and things like that. So
we put a big hat on your head with a crystal ball in front of you, and
exactly. So I'm going to say, as Elizabeth, we're going to test for immune system, nervous system, brain. Well, the brain is just brain connectivity, not how well your brain is working. Heart as an energetic organ. I want to know how well your spirit is connected to your physical body, how well connected you are to the concept of safe, how full your stress bucket is. If your vagus is in or out, or if we need to do a Court of Heaven session for you, or a thorough kit for you, or just look at your I'm also going to put this thing in here, glycosylation. And I'll explain that for you as well.
Okay.
So the way I do muscle testing, Elizabeth, is I make a small effort and I check the muscles governing my swallowing and breathing and see if they're locked down a little bit or open.
Okay.
Very slight. And so there'll be plenty of periods of awkward silence while I muscle test myself for you. So I'm testing for Elizabeth. These are her results. I'm going to say, as Elizabeth, my immune system is functioning at, I would say about 30%. Nervous system at, it's a little bit in the crapper at about 10%. So brain connectivity, 40%. Heart is at 30%. Spirit to body connection is at. So one thing to understand really quickly, back in Austin, I have a beautiful car I love that's about paid off. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
And when if I go to get in that car and the battery cable is loose, not disconnected, just loose, when I go to start the car's not going to start. And the brakes, engine, transmission, heating, air conditioning, radio, like nothing's working.
Nothing's right.
And it would be a very bad judgment call if I go, oh man, the car is just fundamentally broken. Call the tow truck and scrap it for metal. Right? Because the car is essentially, it's a beautiful Lexus. It's almost just slightly disconnected, right? So when you see a lot of low numbers, the thing is just it's important not to go, oh, I'm really fundamentally broken. No,
I try to do the blessings and the gifts and funny wrapping paper kind of thing. Like if it's coming up, it's coming up to be dealt with. So if it's low, it can go up and we'll work on it. That's what you need to know. But I feel it.
Just the saying is that everything could be fixed easily. Does that make sense? So,
yes.
So one thing, if this number right here is correct, and I could be wrong on any of it, when you have such a low spirit to body connection, what happens is you experience physical and emotional trauma and your spirit starts to disconnect from your physical body. If that number is correct, if you're at all a functional person, you were exercising incredible self-discipline and willpower just to do the day, right?
That's how I feel, Steve. I feel I'm 24/7. I'm working Kennedy.
Yeah. So that, with a number that low, doing the laundry is difficult, right?
Thank you.
It's like,
thank you.
And the reason is because your spirit is really not here, right? It's just but your physical body still has got to limp along and manage, right?
And I just feel like a body and a head. Like I have the thoughts and I have myself and I sit in it a lot. Exactly. I have a very hard time moving and doing anything that I'm supposed to do. And it's really frustrating because I have priorities. There's things I should be focusing on and I can't. And then I'm left feeling like not good enough. And it's because of this.
Yeah. That will be
work,
expected.
But I'm still here. So
from my perspective, if you're functioning at all, I'm like, well, good job, because
I'm trying.
It would be a challenge. No, I get it. So
thank you.
So safe.
Can you tell that to my husband?
Yeah. So one thing to understand is this. What we're going to talk quite a bit about the map of consciousness. Do you know anything?
Yeah. I this muscle testing toolkit. I don't know how to operate this. I can muscle test and come up with a low number. I don't know anything about raising it or anything.
Sure. So what this is just it quantifies different levels of consciousness. On the bottom of the map of consciousness, people operate in force. When they operate in force, they push on things. It pushes back. You can get things done, but it requires a lot of energy. And one of the key things about operating in force is your value and your identity are very firmly dependent on your personal performance, how people treat you, or how institutions honor you. So there's no rest there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Stephen, I get no, I work on trying to be enough for myself,
Yeah.
but that not any approval or outside approval.
Sure. And we'll talk about that. And so when people operate at the top of the map of consciousness, the key thing is you're very firmly connected to God's unconditional love for you, being the foundation of your identity and your value, right? And that's a love. It's not based on your performance. It's based on relationship, okay? And so when you can be very firmly founded on unconditional love, you can live a wholehearted life. And what that means is you can go for it. And hey, newsflash, you will fail and it will hurt, but failure can't put guilt and shame on you, right? Neither can anyone else put guilt and shame on you. And so you're a free person, right? And you mess up, you're like, wow, that sucked. Let's do it again.
I just want to be a free person.
Yeah. So that's my job here. So the first thing we really measure on the map of consciousness is the concept of safe, because certain parts of the nervous system are very, very connected to keeping you safe. Okay, if you look down on the ground and there's a big snake there, and you jump, you get out of the way. You don't sit and do a cost-benefit analysis of if you should get out of the way. Does that make sense? You just do it.
You just react.
When we go through life and experience some trauma, sometimes what will happen is your nervous system will make decisions that other things aren't safe. People or sleep or whatever, who knows? And it can be very difficult to change that. You know, if I said, hey, Elizabeth, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do like a lot of talk therapy and like go over affirmations and scriptures, because I want to be really sure that you're very comfortable stepping in front of a moving city bus in downtown Philadelphia. How's that going to work out? Your nervous system's like, yeah, we don't care how much talk therapy you do, how many scriptures you confess, not happening.
I'm just not there. We're not there.
Nope, right? So sometimes these things that get wired, your nervous system's like, yeah, no, we're not doing it. Even though we try to change ourselves and develop ourselves, it's like, yeah, good luck with that. It's not, you got to find different ways to disconnect those new crazy beliefs your nervous system has. So your connection to safe is not even on the map of consciousness. It's more like this. When someone has extreme experiences of trauma, what will happen is any conversation about being safe sounds dangerous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if I said, hey, Elizabeth, trust me, everything's going to be okay. You're like, no. You know. That makes sense. You're like, don't say that. You're making me nervous. Why? It's all going to be okay.
I know, no.
It's like you're a liar. It's a lie, right?
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. So much so. Thank you.
So the next thing we'll talk about is a stress bucket. Okay. And a stress bucket it's a way of describing and having a conversation about how much you put on your plate, right? And it should be like a happy, healthy medium amount. Like, hey, I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm not going to take care of stuff that's not mine. I'm not going to ignore being a responsible adult either. And I know I'm not on my own because God loves me, so I have help.
Right.
Makes sense?
Right.
So what happens is a lot of people will live on the extremes. On the very high extreme, what happens is people are like, hey, I'm going to do all of the stuff I need to do, and I'm going to do a bunch of your stuff too, because you're not doing such a good job with your stuff. And I feel somehow it's my responsibility to do your stuff, right?
Right.
And a lot of times people will spend too much time there and kind of hurt themselves, like trash their adrenals, wear themselves out. And all of a sudden, boom, they'll end up on the other end of the spectrum where you are. Where you're like, don't talk to me about it. I can't handle it. I'm just going to Netflix and chill. Like, hey, Christine, there's stuff you need to handle. I know. Just, I don't want to hear it. No.
Nope.
It's not happening. Blah, 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 blah.
Nope.
not happening.
La 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 la. Yeah.
That's what's going on. So here's the big mistake. Do you believe that God loves you?
I would like to say yes, but I muscle test no. So if that says anything.
Sure. Is that your dog or something?
Yeah, she's out here rolling around, yawning and stuff in the grass.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a 13-year-old puggle.
A what?
She's
a puzzle?
A pug and a beagle.
Oh, funny. So here's the deal. The reason your stress bucket is so low and you're doing the blah, 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 I can't handle it, because you're thinking and acting like an orphan.
Well, that's how I am now.
Right. As if you're not God's daughter, as if you're not loved, as if you don't have support, as if anything you needed to do, you would have to handle completely and totally 100% on your own. Does that make sense?
That's where I'm at now. I had parents that were my world and my support, and it was all taken from me the way that it was. And sure. I've been in survival mode for my kids just to function and sure. just to have some peace and to sleep at night. And I have nowhere to turn other than my prayer. There's no resources, there's no family, there's no support. And yes, it's very scary, and I feel like an orphan.
Say this with me. Say, God.
Okay. God.
I'm not handling life right now.
I am not handling life right now.
Nearly as well as I should.
Nearly as well as I should.
And that's because.
And that is because.
I haven't factored into life.
I haven't factored into life.
That you actually love me.
That you actually love me.
And would happily help me.
And would happily help me.
With even the most mundane things in my life.
With even the most mundane things in my life.
And I invite you right now.
And I invite you right now.
To do life with me.
To do life with me.
To help me.
To help me.
And I'm confident.
And I am confident.
That my life is about to get easier.
That my life is about to get easier.
Right. So if we just do that, no code, no body code work, no releasing energetic things. Okay, just that.
Yeah.
Right? Simple. And we say your stress bucket
Steve,
goes from
imagine, I feel so broken. Like all the work, like you just said, besides the emotion cope, all that stuff that I've been doing.
Yeah.
I feel unfixable, or I get practitioners that are like, well, I can't help you anymore because, you're so stuck up here. Well, then help me let go of up here.
No, we'll help you. No,
I don't
know.
Worries. Thank you.
See how fast that shifts just on that?
Yeah.
5 to 25%. So one thing to understand about the map of consciousness is that it differentiates two different ways you can go through life. Thinking and acting like a slave, a servant, or an orphan. Or thinking and acting like God's daughter. The princess.
What my name means. Right? Yeah.
Right. And so my job is not to just give you advice and say you should think that way, but to say, hey, let's figure out where that got disconnected. Okay. Because, in the New Testament, it says that God's kingdom is righteousness, peace, and joy. So when people want more peace and joy, the thing that needs to precede it is an identity founded on unconditional love. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So here's...
I don't know if I just feel like I have to say this real quick.
Yeah.
So my mom, right? I don't mean to put her up on a pedestal, but my mother was the epitome of unconditional love. Okay. My mother gave to everyone but herself, like a martyr. Okay. Like sure. That martyrdom kind of mentality. Like I take care of everybody else, but I don't take care of myself, to the point that she left herself in a situation that was not safe, that I trusted that she knew what she was doing. Right.
Sure.
And that she was safe with that. And I'm looking to everybody else around me for a love that my mom gave me that nobody can give.
Yeah.
loving me no matter what, right? And I want that connection with God.
So I want to, do you currently go to church anywhere? Kind of what's your...
I haven't. I was raised Catholic. I have some churches near me. I have some options. There's actually a Latter-day Saints church not far, Catholic church, another Christian church. So I think tomorrow that might be good for me.
I want to talk about a couple of very basic things really quickly.
I don't know where to go, Steve. I don't know where I'll feel like I belong. I don't know where I'll feel safe.
Sure. Well, here's a very important thing that we need to discuss first, and that is some of the very key steps on how to handle disappointment. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and because the people aren't equipped to handle disappointment, and when they run into big disappointment, here's what happens. You froze on me. So when people run into disappointment, what happens is that unresolved disappointment, it occupies a place in your heart that faith is supposed to occupy. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does.
And so when you have the disappointment and it's not fixed, you can't move forward. Okay. And what people do is they make a couple of very fatal errors in dealing with disappointment. The first and primary thing people do when they experience disappointment is they ask the question, why did that happen? Or something like that. Why? Why'd that happen? Why didn't this happen? Why? And the reason people do that is they think that if they knew why, they would have peace, and then that would heal their broken heart, and then they can move forward. Okay. But here's the problem, and here's one of the things that you're running into.
And I spent a lot of time, probably the first year after losing my parents, on just that. Why, how? Like, Yeah.
Sure. So here's the problem with that, though, and part of the problem is that you are a smarter and more determined than the typical person. Okay.
Thank you.
But it's been a problem for you for this reason. If someone is dumb and lazy and they experience something and they may ask why once and they don't really get a good answer and then they give up, right? But not you. You'll ask that question 500 million times, right? So the problem with it is it's the way your brain works.
Logic. Like I'm looking for answers with my logic mind that I'm not going to be able to find logically.
Well, no, here's the real problem is the question itself. When you ask, why did this happen? Your brain will go to deliver an answer for you. But it won't filter out the answers based on whether they're helpful or accurate. It will bury you in bullshit. Why did this happen? Oh, you should have done something different. Your mom should have done something different. God doesn't love you.
God should have done something.
Blah. It's like it's just lie after lie after lie, and you keep going because you think one time somebody's answer is going to help me, right?
Are you like in my head? Are you in here?
Yeah. So a couple of things you're going to have to do. Okay. One, you're going to have to aim your brain in a different direction.
Okay.
You're going to have to say, how can I take my parents' death and use it as the absolute foundation for something extraordinary?
Okay.
Right? Or or you can ask, what's the hidden gift in what I went through? Now, if you can't answer, by the way those questions are structured, the answer your brain delivers to you has to be helpful. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because there's a way it's structured. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not an open-ended question that will allow lies to just pile you that will hurt you. You following me so far?
Right. Yes.
Yes. Another way did you ever do any sports or anything?
I was an athlete. I tore my ACLs my senior year of high school and lost my scholarships to college. I was a basketball player.
A basketball player. Awesome. So
Yeah.
when I want to shoot a basket playing basketball, do I look at where I want the basketball to go, or do I look at just to the left of the rim where it's going to bounce off?
I want to look at it where it's going to go.
Exactly. When I ask, why did this happen? Am I looking at what I want to create or the problem?
The problem.
I'm very focused on the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Not
hence the problem.
either.
It's like, so you become obsessed with the out of bounds, obsessed with where you don't want to go, what you don't want to create. This is the problem. And what happens is it's a recipe for depression and anxiety.
Okay.
Right. And hence here we are. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Steve, I mean, prior to losing my parent, when you asked that question, what good can come of this? Or what was my entire life prior, I was in and out of mental hospitals. I suffered from anxiety, depression. I was diagnosed as bipolar, borderline personality disorder, attention deficit disorder. I was put on lithium, Seroquel, pumped full of meds and drugs, right?
Yeah.
About 6 years ago, my back started to go. My spine, my vertebrae started to collapse. I had 8 ruptured discs, right? I required 3 spine surgeries. I have titanium rods fusing my spine from my L4 to my S1. From that process of being physically decapacitated, right, and debilitated, I started getting strong mentally, right, and fighting all these diagnoses and that. And then I lost my cat.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, but what came from that was that anxiety and depression that I suffered from, that I didn't know what it pertained to or where it came from.
Yeah.
Now I have an event and a thing that pain and anxiety goes to. Whereas for my entire life from a little girl, I never knew where to place it or where it came from.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And
so I feel like this was my whole life coming. Like I was preparing my entire life for this.
Well, we're gonna help you rewire your brain neurologically too. Okay. And not just through energy work, but through real practical things that anybody can do. The second part of, so the first step in overcoming disappointment is a psychological thing of how to ask the right question. Okay. The second thing we need to talk about is the spiritual step in it. Okay. And there's a scripture in the New Testament. It says this, God says, my peace passes understanding. So God says, the peace that I will give you is not connected to understanding. So when we keep on asking the why,
the need to understand is literally understanding it. You're standing under. That's my little game I play. If I need to understand this, then I am under it, and I am standing under it, and now it's all on top of me.
That's perfect. Now understand this too, that when you ask for understanding to have peace, you're looking to and relying on an inferior peace to heal your broken heart. Which peace would you like, God's peace or your own peace, which is going to heal your heart better?
I don't know anything.
So part of the process is to go, okay, God, wow, painful, my heart's broken, I'm seriously messed up here, but somehow in the midst of it, I know you're good. I don't understand, but I know you're good.
I've seen amazing things. Right? I've experienced, yeah.
So you just have a simple conversation with God like this. You go, look, my heart's broken, but I'm not going to ask why, but I have to have your peace to heal my broken heart so I can move forward, right? And what will happen is if you follow that process properly, what you'll find is that your area of great disappointment can become your area of great triumph. And I'll give you an example of how that works. One of my spiritual mentors, he pastors a church in California, and the church is world famous for miracles. Especially a lot of people getting prayed for with cancer, tons and tons of people getting healed, okay? Now,
Yeah.
his own father was also pastor, also believed in this as well. His own dad gets pancreatic cancer and dies.
That was my grandfather. Yeah.
Right? So you wait a
Yeah.
second. How
Well,
can we have strangers in my church? They're healed.
I
My
can
dad's
heal.
like dead. Like that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah.
But he said this. He goes, I knew I couldn't ask why because it would never help me. And I just said, God, you got to heal my broken heart. He goes, and God did heal my broken heart. And if you ask me why my dad died, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you how it is, right?
Mhm.
And he goes, when I got that peace, you know what happened? All of a sudden in our church, we started getting miracles with pancreatic cancer, person after person after person after person. Why? Because my area of great disappointment
His
had
faith.
become my area of great triumph. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes, it does.
And so that's just, there's a couple very practical things to do regarding your situation. Okay.
I feel very responsible, Steve. I feel very
Yeah.
guilty and very responsible, even though I know there was nothing I could do.
Sure. Oh, it's, I get it. Okay. So Vegas is out. And the other thing we're going to go down here is talk about glycosylation. Glycosylation, I'm going to give you, let's measure it first. It's at, okay. So how many,
Is that sugar?
what's that?
Is that blood sugar, glycose? Is that a sugar thing?
No,
No.
I'll explain it to you.
Okay.
The way the cells in your body talk to each other is they
Okay.
take 8 different sugars, and they're functional sugars. They're not burned for energy. They take them and it forms them in different shapes, kind of like Braille or sign language, and then attach those sugars to a protein and sits on the surface of your cell. It's like a structure.
Okay.
And all, A-L-L, all inter and intra-cellular communication is run on those sugars.
Okay.
Feed me, fix me, defend me, repair me. It's how your immune system runs. It's how your DNA expresses itself properly, all that. And if of those 8 sugars, you get 2 regularly in your diet, your body will make the other 6 because it has to through a backup process.
Right.
But that backup process is very vulnerable to stress and to toxicity.
Okay.
So when you have, first of all, dealing with a lot of stress to begin with, then you have a life event.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the level and quality of communication between your cells drop. So looking at that number, I would say currently you're also having a lot of what I would term wacky health issues.
Yeah.
Autoimmune disorders.
I've gained 60 pounds since I lost my parents, and I probably only eat 1 meal a day.
Yeah, your body does wacky things. It responds bizarrely to things.
Yesterday, I had a cup of coffee. I put cream and sugar in my coffee, and I like sugar, right? And after I had my coffee a little bit later, I'm sitting there. I start getting the shakes and getting a headache, like that blood sugar drop kind of feeling.
Yeah. Where
as if I didn't eat or have any sugar in me all day, even though I knew that I did. And I'm like, why do I feel shaky like this? Why am I getting a headache? And then I ate. I put food in me, like, okay, I feel like I need to eat something. My body needs food. And it didn't go away.
Yeah. So that's so with that level of communication, your body's doing all sorts of wacky crap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's because your cells aren't talking to each other. So that's one. Now you can impact that nutritionally, but also we're going to see that number go up quite a bit as we deal with underlying stress and energetic issues going on in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm going to say, as Christine,
real quick, I have to interrupt you. My name's Elizabeth, and I'm not sure. I think because my name's Elizabeth Christine on Facebook, you're not the only one.
All right.
People are calling me Christine regularly, but it's Elizabeth. I don't want to confuse.
And I'm easily confused on that. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if that affected our connection or what you're calling me or what, you know what I mean? Just, yeah.
No.
But it's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. So I'm going to say, as Elizabeth, the most helpful thing to work on is, first we're going to work on your vagus nerve. Your vagus is just kind of the main nerve running through your whole body. And when that disconnects, it's like you can't handle life or stress or anything very well at all.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing we're going to work on here.
I did just order that tool. I watched your video regarding this. And that,
the Sparker? Perfect.
The Sparker, okay. Yes.
So one main thing underlying this is we're going to go to body code for that. Nutrition and lifestyle. So one thing that comes up for me a lot of times when I do body code work is dehydration. It's not actual water dehydration. It's more of an energetic lack of something, okay? And one of the things to understand is, in Genesis, it says that God made man a speaking spirit, just like God. And the mistake people do in doing energy work is they think that you can create what you want to just by getting rid of problems, right? But they leave out the fact that you are a creative being and you need to own your power and creativity. And sometimes you need to, it's like, hey, here's the deal. In life, you've got giants that are trash talking you. Think of the story of David and Goliath. Goliath trash talked the entire Israelite army day in, day out. Nobody said anything, right? Until David came along, and the steps involved in what he did are very important because you can apply them to your own life, okay? So,
Steve, I have to interrupt you 1 second.
Yeah.
I have to put my dog inside. She looks like she's ready to have like a heat stroke. I'll be right back. Sorry. So sorry. Come on,
those dogs really aren't built for the heat, though,
No, and you know what? Like, she's black. So the sun is hitting her body, and she's probably really hot. And she's too old to even realize. I know. Well, come on. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So, all righty here. So I want to very quickly go over the basic steps that David dealt with his giant, okay? Because it's going to be important for you to start following these steps in your own life, okay? That makes sense? Step one, he said, he said, what does the man get who kills this giant, right? So you have to be aware of the benefit in taking on your personal giant, right? And they told him, hey, they go, if whoever kills him, your family's going to be tax-free and you get to marry the king's daughter. And David was like, awesome. He goes, sign me up, right? I'm doing this. So second step, people will oppose the process of taking on the giant because King Saul said, hey, this is not possible. You're just a kid, and this guy's been a stone cold killer since he's been a kid. So how did David respond? What do you have to do? You have to rehearse your past victories. What did David say? He said, I've killed the lion. I've killed the bear, right? You got to go, okay, well, I'm taking this thing on. What have I've taken some other things on in my past successfully, right?
Yeah.
So you got to start rehearsing that. The next thing he said is he said this. He goes, then he talked about this man as being an uncircumcised Philistine. What he meant was, my giant doesn't have a covenant with God.
Wow.
So in moving forward and taking on your giant, you have to think of it in terms of partnership, right? Like, okay, I'm taking this giant on, but not by myself. What did he do after that? Now he starts talking to the giant himself. He's like, hey, man, just to let you know, I'm going to cut your head off. I'm feeding you the dogs. I'm embarrassing all of you, right? So that's important. So you understand those few steps, right? And one of the biggest shortcuts energetically to dealing with things is to think in terms of partnership, okay? Think about this. If I said something like this to you, I said, Christine, I'm about to start a new business in an area that I have absolutely no experience in, right? You would be like, okay, cool, Steve. Well, good luck. Hope you didn't invest too much money in it, right? And then I add this. I go, with my new best friend, Sir Richard Branson. Oh, then you're like, oh, well,
Oh, okay.
you could be a lazy idiot as long as you
Right.
just show up. You're good, right?
You have a partner, right? Right. Yes.
Partnership,
Yes. Yes.
right? And so
Right. Wow.
in your life, you've got to default back to partnership. It's not the Elizabeth show. It's you're a daughter of God. You're loved. There's resources available to you. You're not taking advantage of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you look at stuff, then it changes, right? It's like,
Yes.
you know, if the princess one day goes out for a horseback ride and her horse throws a shoe, does she go, "Oh my God, I don't know how to blacksmith. How am I going to fix this?"
Right.
Heard this thought from her mind. She goes,
Okay.
"I'm not sure how, but I put the horse in the stall without a horseshoe, and tomorrow I come back and there's a horseshoe on it." I don't know how that works, but it does. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She taps into that blissfully, not a problem. All of a sudden, things start working out for her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not about her earning it or deserving it.
I just
right?
want to, yeah.
And that's how you can shortcut a lot of deciding if you're worth it or this or that, or if you can do it. Well, maybe it's not about you, right? And life all of a sudden gets easier even before you do all the personal development and inner healing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Right. So this is we call it a complete lack of something on the. So something on the map of consciousness on the top, and then actually in red. So we go elimination, complete lack of elimination. So what do we need to eliminate? Say something on the chart. Emotions, be 6 of shock. The shock of my parents' death. From doing what? What is it doing? It's doing something on the negative page 3. Okay, so typically in life, what people want is they want this, I need the next 5 sequential steps for the next 10 years of my life so I can relax and I know everything's going to be okay. That makes sense? Right? That's what I want.
Yeah.
And when people have problems, what do? They go, holy crap, I have a problem. I got to fix it. Right? Got to focus, right? If someone said, hey, Elizabeth, we're going to go do this fun thing. You want to do it with us this weekend? You're like, no, man. I got a problem.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you go like this, and I'm just random guess that this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. You understand that your problem has got to occupy this tiny little, puny little box right in front of your nose. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
What's the chance of a beautiful solution showing up in that?
It's like a little viewfinder. Yeah, no.
Not happening. What happens if you go this? You go, you know what? I'm working on trusting God, and I believe that God loves me. And if that's true, I'm going to act a little different. I'm changing my physiology. I'm changing my attitude. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start enjoying life. I'm just going to believe that things are going to start working out for me, and I don't have to do everything on my own. And all of a sudden you look around and you're like, oh, wait a second.
I can feel it, Steve. I can feel it. Like I can feel it.
Like I didn't even think of that. There. How could I miss that? That makes it so easy. Does that make sense? It's fixed, right? So, for example, one of my spiritual mentors, he pastors a large ministry, large church. He says, when I have major problems in my ministry, you know what I do? He goes, I go fishing. That looks so irresponsible. He goes, oh no. When I sit on that fishing boat, I can hear the answer. I solve it. When I'm at home, at the office, stressed out, trying to solve it, I can't hear it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
So you less of this, because this is not responsible, right? If you think it's responsible, it's not being responsible. Enjoying life, doing things that you love to do because it brings you stability. Then you put yourself in a place, right? Guess what happens when I go from here to standing like Superman or Superwoman? You know what happens?
Tell me, please.
My level of testosterone starts to go up. Even if I'm still thinking the same thing, just holding my body that way, testosterone goes up, cortisol drops. All of a sudden, I'm confident yet calm. You think I can solve problems better when I'm confident and calm?
Now, as you're saying this, in my health is where I've had my hormone levels and stuff done. My testosterone has always been, my hormones have never been imbalanced. And I've always had an issue with doing things, a lot of sabotage behavior in the past, doing things dangerously to create that rush, to create that feeling in an unhealthy way, right? And I made some really poor choices and did some pretty bad things when I function that way.
Sure.
I need to know how I know you talked about these judgments and stuff on decisions we've made or our circumstances. I've done some pretty crappy stuff, right? And I want to learn to trust my decision making and myself.
Yeah. Well, here I'm going to share. We're going to share two very important things with you. One is the mental health hack. Okay.
Yeah.
Understand this. You are a spirit. You have a soul, which is your mind, your will, your intellect, your emotions, and you live in a physical body. Okay.
Yeah.
And when people are having problems with their emotions, they try and change their emotions and thoughts with other emotions and thoughts. It's a losing battle. Here's why. When you feel a certain way, by default, most people then align their physical body with how they're feeling. I feel depressed. Then what do I do with my body, physical body?
Yeah.
Now, when I do this with my physical body, what my physical body does is it creates hormones and chemicals that are in alignment with this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if I try and simply fight emotions and thoughts with other emotions and thoughts, it's not even a fair fight. Because I'm not even just fighting the emotions and thoughts. I'm also fighting my physical body, which is teamed up with my negative emotions and thoughts.
Yes.
How's that going to work out? It's not. Does that make sense?
Right.
So
yeah.
Step one is you do this. You go, okay, we'll just leave the emotions and thoughts there. We're not going to worry about it. What we are going to do is we're going to take the physical body, radically change it.
Okay.
Right? I can be depressed and still smile, even if I feel depressed. Well, do that. I can change my physiology, shoulders back, breathing deep, hands on my hips. I'm looking up, confident, hands on my hips, like bring it on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do that for 2 minutes. All of a sudden now, if I try and change my emotions and thoughts, now I've got a teammate. My physical body is pumping hormones that are in alignment with what I want to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Now it's coming way easier. You following me?
Yes. Yes. And this is where I was diagnosed as manic and having a manic episode because I was in that high and never. Yeah. Wow.
All right. Does that make sense? So that's just a simple tool. The other thing I want to talk about is this, is, the number one thing you need to do in your life is get crystal clear on where and how you get your value. Okay. So we're going to have a little economics discussion here, right?
Okay.
The home you're in right now, well, just for example, say you own the home and it's worth whatever, $300,000, right? And if you wanted to sell your house, who determines the actual price that it closes at? The buyer or the seller? Who decides that price ultimately?
Ultimately, the seller.
I would ask about $10 million for your house, because then that would solve a lot of problems for you to have $10 million cash in the bank.
Yeah. Huh?
What's going to happen?
Not going to happen.
Why is that?
It's not practical. It's not worth it. It's not the same value.
You don't have a buyer. You don't have a $10 million buyer. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Right? If someone knocks on your door and says, I'll give you $10 million for your house, what do you say?
Sure. Thank you.
Why wouldn't you say, no, you don't understand. The house is worth $275
Oh, you didn't say $10 million.
The roof is iffy, and the foundation, and my neighbors, they are crazy. You do not want to ever live next to them, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that?
No.
Why not?
Because then
you lose out on the benefit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shooting myself in the foot, yeah.
It would be crazy. So I lived in Aspen, Colorado for the first time in 1988. That's 31 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, heads up, this is going to be a trick question. You ready? What was the average single-family home cost in 1988 in Aspen, Colorado? Guess. It's 31 years ago.
Average in 88, $500,000.
$1.2 million. What do you think it is today?
Then it has to be, oh, wait a minute. Is that the trick part? Today, at $3 million or?
$8 million. Why? Buyers. The buyers,
right.
buyers, right? So, and we'll get to the point in this story. But one more thing to understand. So in the 1950s, a couple from Louisiana, they traveled to Europe on vacation. While in Europe, they bought a painting at an art auction. Okay. And they came home and they really liked this painting, and they bought it for $60. $60. After they passed away, someone bought the painting for $10,000 because he thought it might be something else. Okay. And this gentleman spent 6 years restoring and validating this painting.
Wow.
And then again, heads up, trick question coming up. He sold it to a Swiss art collector. What did he sell that painting for? How much?
I don't know. Tell me what he paid for it.
$88 million. The Swiss guy sold it to a Russian guy for $129 million. The Russian guy sold it to a Saudi Arabian prince for $451 million. And that's how a Muslim man ended up buying a painting of Jesus by Leonardo da Vinci for $451 million. So let me ask you this. What did the painting do or not do to change the value from 60 to $451 million? What did the painting do?
It didn't do anything.
It was the buyer who determined the value, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So here comes the point of the whole
story. Yeah.
The point of the entire story is this, is that to have a deep and intimate connection and relationship with you, God bought you with a price of his own son. And when he bought you with that price, that is what permanently decided your value. And what you do or what you don't do doesn't have the authority to change the value. It's already been determined. What you do, though, is you can agree with it or you can disagree with it. And when you disagree with the valuation, you lose out on the benefit, right? So someone knocks on your door on Monday and says, I'll give you $5 million for your house. You just keep your mouth shut about the foundation and the crazy neighbors and that the neighborhood's going downhill and that it's only worth $300,000, right? Yeah, just shut up about that, right? And you keep going. I don't understand. Yes, it is worth what you say, right? So that's what you have to do with God in your relationship with God. You got to go, I don't understand because I have lists and lists and lists of disappointments and things I messed up. But if you say that doesn't matter, I'm going to agree with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that helpful to understand?
So much so, yeah.
All right.
So I felt myself sit taller when you said that.
So say this with me. Say, because God loves me.
Because God loves me.
I'm going to eliminate.
The ability.
Of the shock of my parents' death. To create an unsure future for me. Say, I'm going to allow God. And His love for me. To take the broken pieces of my life. And put them together. And make something beautiful. Does that make sense? That's how it works out.
Yeah.
Seemingly disconnected thing coming together by divine order and timing. So what happens in this is your life in the future can be so beautiful that
I feel like the sun just shined down brighter on me just now, I swear. Like a cloud moved or something moved, and I just felt it come down on me.
So what you do, Christina, Elizabeth. So what you do is you use your imagination, your God-given imagination, and you put yourself in the future, doing something simple, maybe going for a walk somewhere. And in your imagination, in the future, on this walk, you do an inventory of your life. And you realize that everything is wonderful. And that's your reality. And you live there. And as you're going on this walk, your physical body feels amazing. Your peace in your heart is healed. Right? And you ask yourself, how come it was so easy to create this? And you just live there and you let it all reverse engineer itself. That's the key thing you keep asking yourself. You're like, I'm already there. I've already got it. How come it was so easy? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
So real quick, I'm going to go grab my piezoelectric sparker and we're going to reset your Vegas. I'll be right back.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
There we go. So again, I'm going to do this on myself on your behalf, of course. And a quick explanation for if anyone sees this video is this.
Yeah.
So this piezoelectric sparker sends when I push the button, it sends a shock here. And so if I put one finger here and one finger there and I press it, the electricity is going to want to make a connection, right?
Okay.
So your vagus nerve runs through kind of from your head all the way through your organs and all the way to your stomach. Okay. So when I put this in,
the vagus nerve, it connects all the meridians, right? Is that basically
connects everything? Yeah, like the main fuse in your body, right? So when I spark on the sides on my belly button and on the sides, and I put my hand up here, what's happening is it's trying to make the connection over and over. It's messed up by stress. Okay. If someone were to look on YouTube and just type in resetting your vagus nerve, you would find a video.
Yeah, I have your YouTube.
Of me doing this on my son, how to do it, and
I have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say your vagus is back, and then of course, better to have.
I felt that.
Vagus.
I really felt that, Steve.
There you go. I think that's probably been a very long time in coming. So
I just felt like this expansion, like in my heart center, like here, just like you just flipped a switch and something
oh
just
yeah.
opened and turned on. Wow.
The
And now
first
I
time
feel it like
someone did that for me, I almost giggled out loud because there was so much of like,
I like really could just, yeah.
so,
Now, does that work like the little pen from the Men in Black too? Could you do like a little mind eraser with that
no,
switch?
it doesn't work like that. So out of curiosity, let's see what happens when we reset that one thing for your overall.
Yeah, please do. Wow.
So that goes to
I feel great.
60% nervous system. That goes up to 50% nervous system.
Steve, I feel like I could like cheer and jump up and down and like, yeah.
So the brain didn't change at all. Heart neither did heart. Spirit to body connection.
The brain didn't change.
The spirit to body connection changed quite a bit. Hopefully, you'll have an increase in energy from that. And,
I feel
safe is it? The safe is still very out. Stress by it. That's still out. So a few things changed quite a bit, and a bunch of stuff didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to say, as Christine, the next most helpful thing to work on will be. Okay. So what we're going to do normally, I'm going to explain this to you. So you can tell the fact that this thorough kit is the next thing that comes up. I can tell that you've done a lot of work already on yourself. And this is how I'm going to explain the thorough kit to you, okay? Doing energy healing and work like this is kind of like having a conversation with your subconscious, right? And for example, you might go, hey, related to my parents' death, do I have a trapped emotion I can release? Yes or no? Or a heart wall? And your subconscious is like, oh, sure.
Wow.
How about this?
Okay.
How about that? And you're like, okay, cool. I kind of, yes, I'm better, but, and it just seems like we're still missing something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like something's off. And then you have a slightly different conversation with your subconscious mind. And you might say something like this, like, okay, here's the deal. I want to know what the absolute foundation is of this, the root, the very beginning, the thing that holds us all together, the glue. And your subconscious is like, oh, okay, well, how about this? And then you're like, holy crap. Like, I've been working on this for 2 years. You've never even mentioned this. And your subconscious is like, hey, man, you never even asked. I'm like, okay. Right? Okay, well, I'm asking. Does that make sense? And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do.
I have tried wording things in every way I know to word things.
So we're going to do a thorough kit on you.
And not just the emotional stuff, but clearing the belief.
Yeah. So we're going to do
the testing statements that I am okay with. And,
The question is, doing it on what? Does that make sense? That's what we want to know. So we're going to describe it on the negative. We're going to go on the negative. Page 3. B6 of unsure. So what we're doing, the thorough kit, is just that one word, unsure. And like, I don't know. Like, what's the future? I don't know. Could I handle that? I don't know. 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 And just like, and the massive fight or flight emotions that come with that, because
it's like, what's next is my thing. What's next? I don't know. I don't know.
Exactly.
What now?
So here's, we're going to work on this. In fact, here's what we're going to do. We're going to measure really quickly what your level of consciousness is regarding that. And it's less than 20. It's like, I have no idea, right?
Okay.
So the mistake that people make that makes this cause so much stress is this. People assume, I need to know the next 5 beautiful sequential steps with a predictable future, then I can relax. If I don't know that and I'm unsure, then I'm freaked out because it's going to be super bad, right? you fail to factor in the fact that you go, okay, God, if I trust you to work all this out for me, what's the future look like? I don't know, but I know it's going to be good because God loves me. Oh, now the unsure is very different connotation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like you have two options. You can go, okay, I want to be totally in control of my life and totally responsible, and I want the 5 sequential steps for my life so that I know what's coming. Or you can go, okay, God, whew, you handle it. God's like, okay, but I'm not telling you the next 10 steps. You're like, no, it's okay.
Much
Okay.
better.
God's like, good. Well, if
That feels so
because
much
you put me
better.
in
Like,
charge,
yeah.
I'm going to take a bunch of broken pieces that you had no idea what to do with. We're going to make something freaky gorgeous out of it. Watch this. Does that make sense?
Yes, please.
So
Yes,
what we're going to do
please.
is we're going to go through and we're not just going to give you that good advice that you should just, oh, Elizabeth, just trust God. Okay, cool. I've been trying, right? So my job is to energetically to go, what's the problem? Why is it difficult, right? So what we do is we know a goal. We know a goal. We know where you are. And what we do is we're going to energetically create a path of least resistance to go from where you are to where you want to be, right?
Yes, please.
You're willing to work hard, but you're like, I can't. It's like I'm carrying too much crap. It's like, okay, get rid of the baggage for you. Now you still have to make that decision, but it's doable. It's doable. Anyways, and that's what we'll start. In the future, we'll keep working on this. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm just going to end the recording here.
Wow, Steve.